The NFL trade deadline approaches. There's a lot of rumors and speculation about the Arizona Cardinal players that could potentially be moved off of in this year's trade deadline. But there's somebody out there that truly believes the Arizona Cardinals can really gain somebody. And on top of that, we're also going to be diving into all the players the Arizona Cardinals ended up working out yesterday. All that and so much more. Let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into another video. Definitely do a huge favor, smack up that like button, subscribe for more Arizona Cardinals content on this channel. We're covering the Arizona Cardinals news, breaking news, conversational pieces, everything surrounding your favorite team. A huge shout out here, sponsors of the AZ Sports Fan here on YouTube. That's going to be Sleeper. Much more on them a little later on. But today we are going to be diving into the Arizona Cardinals trade deadline, who could potentially be on the move and who the Arizona Cardinals could potentially bring in. Now, yes, we already made a video about this a little earlier about the Arizona Cardinals need to sell, and I still kind of feel like the Cardinals need to sell. Now, as of right now, we have heard Monty Austin-Ford and Jonathan Gannon, and what seems like internally they feel like they are close to potentially turning this season around. As of right now, they're 2-5, and they're an 0-2 in their division, with everybody else in the division at 5-2. It's a very, very steep hill to climb, and they buried themselves in a very, very big hole. But can it happen? Well, with 10 games left, mathematically they're not ruled out yet. But if the Arizona Cardinals end up losing here in Jerry World on Monday Night Football, we're probably going to have some very, very uncomfortable conversations heading into the regular season. But as of right now, there's still a little sliver of hope according to this coaching staff. Now, I really want to talk about this trade deadline because it's so fascinating to see where the Arizona Cardinals could potentially go, right? We've seen Monty Austin-Ford sell, we've seen him buy, and this is a really weird, I guess, year for the Cardinals because they were supposed to be contenders. They were supposed to be a team that was going to be a dark horse to potentially hit the playoffs, or a team potentially fighting for the division. And as of right now, in 8 weeks, they have not been able to do that so far. But like I said, mathematically, they're still not out of it yet. But the big question out there is, will the Arizona Cardinals sell? And being the fact that the trade deadline is, 5 days away from recording this video, we're going to have a lot of conversations about players that we love, right? That could potentially be on the move for the Cardinals. Now, like I said before, we have made a video about this, but I really want to focus on the national perspective out there and what they're saying about players that could be on the move as well, right? So let's talk about it here real quick. Now, one guy that I had on my list is Calais Campbell. There's just something about him, man. At 38, 39 years old, he is probably arguably one of our best defensive linemen, and he's still doing it at a very high level. Now, he was a lot more productive in the beginning of the season compared to in the last few weeks. That is true. But, man, this is a guy that if he's on a Super Bowl caliber team, a team that gets multiple pressures on all three of those other front four guys, he can flourish in a defense like that. Now, unfortunately, the Arizona Cardinals did so much to upgrade their defensive line, but they're still struggling and creating constant pressure. Now, of course, we ended up having Josh Sweat that's doing a pretty good job, as well as Calais Campbell. But the guys that we really depended on in Darius Robinson, Dalvin Tomlinson, they're not really doing as much as we thought they were going to do. And right now, we're probably only going to be able to see Walter Nolan on Monday Night Football. If not Monday night, then definitely most likely the next week is going to have his debut. So we're not having the success that we thought we were going to have. So the big question out there is Calais Campbell ready to, I guess, try it one more time for a potential ring? He's accomplished everything in his career right now, and I don't want to see the big man go. I really don't. I would love for him to stay here in the desert and finish off his career as an Arizona Cardinal, but that's just me being selfish, if I'm going to be real with you. Like, that's just me being selfish and wanting him to stay in an Arizona Cardinal uniform and retire here. But if he truly wants to go out there and go after a ring, maybe move on over to a competitive team, a team that's going to be like the Eagles, right? Man, he would flourish in that specific defense. So I don't know. Like, I'm kind of, I don't know how to really feel about it. I would hate to see him go, but I completely understand. And honestly, the national perspective out there is basically saying the same thing, that Calais Campbell could be a very viable asset for the Cardinals to move off of, right? He's in his late 30s, 40s, coming here a lot sooner than we think, but this might be his last hurrah. This might be his last year in an NFL uniform. So Let's see what he decides to do. But there's Calais Campbell. Jalen Thompson has also been a name thrown out there as well. There's people out there speculating that Jalen Thompson could potentially move on over to a different team because we do got Daedrian Taylor Demerson that could potentially take his role. So there's that as well, which I really do like Jalen Thompson. I was one of those guys that did not want to move off of him in the last couple of years that a lot of Cardinal fans have tried to move off of him to save some sort of cap. But man, I love the duo that we have back there with Jalen as well as Buda Baker. And I get it. If you want to start kind of seeing a little bit more of Daedrian Taylor Demerson, which we are starting to see a little bit more with obviously the three safety sets in the defense for the Arizona Cardinals, but him being the primary guy back there with Buda would be pretty cool, right? And there's also the other side of the coin as well. Buda Baker requested a trade. We gave him some more money. He seemed happy. But let's be real, the Arizona Cardinals are a Super Bowl caliber team. Will he want to finish off his career with a team that's competitive, right? That's going to go for a championship? Well, that name's also been thrown around out there as well. And it's actually pretty fascinating because Buda Baker, the same way how I feel about Calais Campbell, I want him to stay here, but it's all selfishness. At the end of it, it's all selfishness. Now, one thing that I find very, very weird is that Buda Baker last year was so much more impactful in our defense last year compared to this year. And honestly, that's something that I would love to see for Nick Riles to really kind of take under his belt, to be a little bit more aggressive, to use Buda Baker the way that we used him last year, because that's how we should use them as a dynamic piece. And for some reason, the Cardinals defense, specifically in the fourth quarter, have been very, very conservative in their approach to stop the opposing team to score points. And that needs to change. So I'm hoping that this bye week is going to allow this team to reset and really kind of be a little bit more aggressive. Now, yes, the aggressive nature does come at a cost, especially if you're playing a quarterback that's really good at, with the blitz coming their way. But at the end of the day, like, if you want to use Buda Baker the best of his ability, you got to use him in those stack boxes, set him on the blitz, let him do Buda Baker things. And unfortunately, the Arizona Cardinals haven't been able to do that very much with Buda Baker. So there's that as well. I saw another name floated around in Zayvon Collins. I don't think Zayvon Collins is going to get traded, if I'm going to be real with you. But if you're staying on that defensive line, Dalvin Tomlinson is another name out there that I'm like, what has he really done? Like, I was really excited about Dalvin. I'm going to be real. Like, the moment that Monty Ossenfort got Dalvin Tomlinson, and I'm not sure if it was because he was aggressive the moment that the Browns ended up releasing him and he was aggressive to get him. I think that might have been what it is as well. And he is a big body. So everybody was like, oh, we got more, beef, right? It was so much more weight on that defensive line. This is going to be so good for the Cardinals. But he really hasn't amounted to very much for the Cardinals. So a guy that's in his 30s, in Dalvin Tomlinson, can he be a option for the Cardinals to potentially move off of as well? Yeah, definitely. But I mean, like, I don't think any of these guys, with maybe the exception of Buda Baker because of the name and how much he's respected in the NFL, they're not gonna, like, even including Calais Campbell. Like, I don't think they're gonna covet anything more than a fourth or fifth round pick. Now, like I said, Buda Baker might covet that because he seemed to be one of the best safeties in the NFL, and he's got that name to his under his belt. But Dalvin Tomlinson's 31 years old. He has 7 solo tackles. Now, 6'3", 335 pounds. I was expecting a little bit more from him. Now, I wasn't expecting him to be like 5-6 sacks. No, more to help stop the run. Like, that's what he was brought in for. And unfortunately, the Arizona Cardinals haven't been great at that sense of it all. So Dalvin Tomlinson's another name out there that you could potentially pitch. Now, let's talk about this real quick before. I did see an ESPN article out there about the Cardinals potentially going after a specific wide receiver. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about the Arizona Cardinals ended up meeting and working out with a lot of players yesterday. And I mean a lot. We're going to dive into that. Now, some people might look at this list and say, oh, it's not a big deal. The Cardinals are just doing what they're doing, but it's just weird. Like, look at this list. The amount of people on this list is absolutely crazy to me because we are heading into week 9 of Monday Night Football, and it's a slew of multiple different offensive side of the ball weapons. Like, it's a lot of people. Now, let's first start off at the top. We got quarterback Logan Woodside. Now, before I finish off the rest of this list, this is prototypical Monty Ossenfort type of names. If I'm going to be real, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but honestly, I've lost a lot of faith in Monty Ossenfort to bring in guys that are going to be very, very impactful. This list that you're going to be seeing here is very in line with what Monty Ossenfort would do. So I don't know why they did this, but let's continue, right? So quarterback Logan Woodside, quarterback Jeff Driscoll, and quarterback Kyle Trask. And now, at one point, Kyle Trask was a pretty big name to potentially take the helm at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but of course, since Baker Mayfield's been there. It's been he was not going to beat out Baker Mayfield, but he was a second round pick, picked up to Tampa Bay with the 64th overall pick. And this is kind of intriguing to me because like I don't know. I just like what is the plan here? Like what's going on? Like why are the Arizona Cardinals working out this many quarterbacks? Now, as of right now, we have two quarterbacks in the 53. You got Kyler Murray as well as Jacoby Brissett. And then at your practice squad is going to be Keaton Slovis, right? So like or Slovis. But like, what's the plan? Are you looking for a new practice squad QB? Is that like that's what we're going for? Like, I don't understand what the approach is for the Cardinals. Now, if you wanted to sign one of those guys, I would hope it would be Kyle Trask. But like at the end of the day, like, what's the point? Like, what are we setting up for? I don't get it. And then on top of that, the Cardinals ended up meeting with some other wide receivers. Wide receiver Jalen Brooks, don't really know him too much, but a wide receiver, Brendan Rice, that's Jerry Rice's son. So that's cool, right? That's actually pretty awesome. Like that we're actually working him out. Now, of course, that would have been a little bit more cool in the offseason compared to now, but still, that's probably the biggest name out there in terms of the weapons. So you got that. You got another wide receiver in Jalen Virgil. Not really big names that I really know too much about. Another wide receiver in Rock Taylor and then a few tight ends as well. Oscar Cardenas, as well as tight end Messiah Swinson. So, for what it's worth, ladies and gentlemen, the Arizona Cardinals are working out a ton of offensive pieces. Why? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, is this something to keep your eyes on? Maybe, right? Maybe in a couple days we're not talking about this, but it's just so weird. It's really, really weird that the Arizona Cardinals are doing this, especially three quarterbacks. Like, what's the plan here? Maybe a new backup practice squad guy? I don't know. I don't know. But let's do this. Before we move on over to the guy that was rumored to come to the Arizona Cardinals, which is a pretty solid name. Let's go ahead and dive right into the sponsors of the AZ Sports Fan here on YouTube. That's going to be none other than Sleeper, proud sponsors of the AZ Sports Fan throughout the entirety of the 2025 season. The NFL season is here, which means you now have a chance to 100 times your cash on daily fantasy football. Pick on stats for stars like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, and fantasy points, and more for up to 100 times the payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you can win big. Use promo code AZSF, and you can get up to a $100 deposit match on your first initial deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. Everything will be in the description below. Sleeper, proud sponsors of the AZ Sports Fan throughout the entirety of the 2025 season. Let's continue the conversation, ladies and gentlemen. This trade deadline is very fascinating because can the Cardinals be buyers and sellers? Yeah. Can they be sellers? Yeah. Can they be buyers? Yeah. Can they just sit still, not do anything? Yes. So it's a lot, right? But let's dive right into the latest thing that I ended up seeing here from ESPN. It's an article that I want to kind of chime in about. And they end up having the Arizona Cardinals, a player that they could potentially target is wide receiver Adonai Mitchell. Yes, the same guy that ended up dropping the ball at the end zone and potentially costing them a game against the Rams. And guess what? We had one of those guys still on this roster in Amari DiMercado. So interesting, right? But this is what they're saying. Who could be targeted? It says Colts. So it says Colts receiver Adonai Mitchell. He has either been inactive or played less than 10% of the Indianapolis snaps since he dropped the ball at the goal line against the Rams in week 4. But Mitchell is a player I have confidence in. He recorded an 82 open score as a rookie last season, tied for 8th best among the likes of Tyreek Hill and Zay Flowers per ESPN receiver scores. That's a hard trait to find and means he still has plenty of unrealized potential. He could be helpful to Arizona now, but also brings the potential to increase his role in the future seasons. Mitchell is under contract until 2027. Now, of course, I wanted to do a little deep dive into Adonai Mitchell, 23 years old, 6'2", 205. He was a second round pick to the Indianapolis Colts in 2024. This year, he's got a total of 145 yards and 8 receptions. Last year, he had a total of 312 yards in 55 targets, 23 receptions. So we're not talking about a guy that's a big needle mover, but seems like a guy that could potentially find a new spot or maybe looking for a new opportunity. He was a second round pick last year, so it's not like it's been, several years removed. But I have a very, very, I guess, big question for you guys. Well, what do you guys feel about this? Adonai Mitchell potentially going to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, keep in mind, this is all based off of speculation, rumor, and predictions on what the Arizona Cardinals can do. But we've already known that multiple people feel like the Arizona Cardinals have one of the worst wide receiving cores in the NFL. Now, whether you blame that on Kyler, the wide receivers, it's up to you. But we've seen Jacoby Brissett use Zay Jones, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. in 2 straight games. So this might not be the biggest need, but I'm not going to lie to you. If we can somehow kind of get away with maybe throwing a 4th or 5th round pick their way, and especially on a player that they don't really use very much after the fumble a few weeks back versus the Rams, the Cardinals might get themselves a really, really good player here on the cheap. So I would be down for the Cardinals going after an Adonai Mitchell. But at the end of the day, it's going to really depend on if Monty Ossenfort is going to want to make a move when you're potentially going to be a 2-5, 3-5, or maybe even a 2-6 team leaving Monday Night Football. So it's going to all depend on what happens with the Arizona Cardinals. But this trade deadline is going to be something to very, very much keep your eyes on because the Cardinals can either throw the white flag out there or try to finish off the season as strong as they can. I mentioned this before. This is a big year for this regime. Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, and Nick Rallis, they're going to want to do everything in their power to win games and finish off the season strong because who knows who's going to be the coaching staff in 2026 for the Cardinals. But ladies and gentlemen, well, let me know what your overall thoughts here on Adonai Mitchell. Let me know here in the comments below. I appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Have a great rest of your day and go Cardinals.